Welcome to the Bella Vista Gardening Program. I am Fran Zimmermann, and with me today is Cathy Wayson, who's a fellow member of the Bella Vista Gardening Club. We are really all sweltering here in July. It's one of the hottest months of the year, and so today we're talking about drought-tolerant plants. Cathy has been very interested in this kind of gardening, and in fact, I've been out to her house and I've seen that her garden is filled with drought-tolerant plants. Cathy, tell me, how did you get interested in it? And tell us about your garden, too.
I got into using drought-tolerant plants because of the weather in Bella Vista. We seem to have at least 2 months of really hot, dry weather. And with the drought the last 3 years, we've had even longer period of time without rain, and the temperatures have been well into the hundreds. Drought-tolerant plants are good for these conditions. Any plant, though, no matter how drought-tolerant it is, needs water until it gets established. So if you plan on using more drought-tolerant plants, you'll want to at least plan on watering them, supplemental water for the first year.
That's what I do.
Yeah. Drought-tolerant plants are really good, and also water conservation is a good thing. At the first house we had here in Bella Vista, my husband rigged up a watering system that took our shower water and ran it out into the garden, and this really worked good. This was a great way to recycle water, and the plants didn't seem to mind a little bit of soap. So there's, of course, rain barrels are great, and there's bigger containers to catch the water from your roof and recycle it. But whatever you do to conserve water, drought-tolerant plants are a good addition to your plan. We have a pump in the lake at our current house, and that is a really good thing. I've always gardened on a small scale, but when we moved into our current house, I kind of went crazy. And I didn't realize I loved it so much, and it's good therapy. I have many raised beds because of the rocky soil here in Bella Vista, and I also have a large area in some trees where I garden in the native soil. So I kind of have it all, sun, shade, raised beds, and native soil. And it takes about 3 hours to fully water my yard. I have that many plants. Well, last summer, I really put my drought-tolerant plants to the test. I had some health issues, and the lake went down so far that the pump was actually out of the water, and I couldn't use it. And watering with city water, it's so expensive here, it just really wasn't an option. I went to the window and I said to my plants, "Hey guys, I'm sorry, you're on your own." And I didn't water for almost a month. To my surprise, I didn't lose any plants. So I thought that was a really good test. It could have turned out badly if I'd had other plants.
What are some of the plants that you've used in your garden?
Well, old-fashioned marigolds are one of my favorites. You really only have to buy them once. I bought a 6-pack of little orange marigolds and planted them. Well, then they go to seed, and the next year you'll have marigolds coming up, perhaps in odd places, but you can move them. They transplant really well, and they kind of mutate every year. Sometimes they'll come back in different sizes and different colors, so it's kind of fun. Another plant that I really like is canna lilies. Those just kind of laugh at the heat and lack of water. Knockout roses are another one, and you'll see them all over town. Some are being watered, and a lot of them aren't, and they just bloom away in the heat, and you know, they're a really good thing. Crepe myrtles are another one that just loves the heat, and I never water my crepe myrtles. They seem to do just fine without it. Daylilies, they can die back with lack of rain, but whenever the rains do come, they'll regrow, and this year my daylilies, even after last summer, they were better than ever. Autumn Joy sedum is another one. Any sedum actually does pretty well in the drought conditions because it has its own supply of water in the leaves. And it's also good because it blooms late in the summer when there's not a lot else blooming. One you may not be familiar with is hardy plumbago ground cover. I started with one plant and I now have it all over my garden because it does spread. I purposely don't water it because I don't want it to spread any more than it already has. The black swallowtail butterflies just love it, and I've seen dozens of them on it at one time. Lamb's ear is really hardy here and easily available. Butterfly weed is another plant. It's a native, and you'll see it all over out on the highways and grassy areas. I encourage you not to dig it up because it doesn't transplant well. And it's available in the nurseries now, so you can just go buy yourself a little pot of it, and like a lot of our native plants, it'll do really well for you. Liriope is a really good thing. It's almost impossible to kill once you get it going. And I also like moonbeam coreopsis. It does really well. And it's a cultivar of the native coreopsis. You have that in your garden, don't you, Fran?
Yes, I do. It's called lanceleaf coreopsis. It's not as compact as the moonbeam, and it also attracts the butterflies and is just really a great plant to have. About 70% of our yard is native, and everything is drought tolerant or it's gone. About the coreopsis, because it does tend to flop, I put it next to other plants that will hold it up, including the lamb's ear. Another perennial is black-eyed Susan. Now, there are many kinds of black-eyed Susans. The official Latin name is Rudbeckia, and Rudbeckia of all different species seem to thrive in spite of the heat. My husband and I went to Crystal Bridges in mid-August last year. You remember how hot that was? And the only flower that was blooming was a black-eyed Susan. Their grasses were fine, but the only flower was this pretty black-eyed Susan. Another good flower that's a native are coneflowers, and they come in a wide variety of colors. This is the purple, but there's also pale purple, there's an orange, there's yellow, and they do very well. If it gets too hot, these, like other natives, will die back, but they'll come back the next year. Another good flower is your good old-fashioned daisy, the kind you might have seen around Grandma's house. And they do very well. They just are so hardy, it's just a joy to have them. And they make good cuttings, too, for vases. Another one is bee balm. It's also known as Monarda. And that I have in my garden. I ordered that from a nursery, but you can buy it in local nurseries, too. And it is a member of the mint family, and you divide it every year. So you get one small plant. In 3 years, you can have it in various parts of your garden. The grasses work really well, too. The native grasses that I have include the switchgrass, which is a tall one, and I have it in front of the utility pole on one side of our house to soften it a bit. Another one is little blue stem, which is a native and comes up in a beautiful blue color.
I have Japanese silvergrass, which is very pretty. It's variegated, and it has a really lovely feathery white bloom.
Whether you use native plants or cultivars that are made to take the heat, having drought-tolerant plants is a good way to conserve water and to have a good chance of survivors after a hot summer. Black-eyed Susan tough it out. Others fade away, but once the weather becomes cooler and we get some rain, they come back up again. One good source of plants that do well in the heat is our own Garden Club plant sale, which is in the spring. All the plants are locally grown.
Yeah, and they do really well in everybody's garden. That's why they divide them and donate them to the sale. And another good place is Compton Gardens has a sale of native plants every spring.
Now, what are some things that we can do in July, Cathy?
We want to conserve water and use drip systems and soaker hoses by watering in the early morning and the evening. And remember, 2 or 3 inches of mulch helps retain moisture and keeps the plants cooler in the heat of the summer.
Now, in annuals and herbs, deadhead often for continued bloom. You know, those basil will just keep blooming, and if you just deadhead them, you'll have nice full leaves. Remember to water before you fertilize those so you don't burn the roots. And pinch back your plants so that they don't grow tall and spindly. Now in perennials, you can pinch back your mums to remove buds until July 15th. Deadhead all of your flowering plants. Now if you have a lawn, this is the time of year to set your mower blade high so that it doesn't get shaved and the grass might die. Also, water at least 1 inch weekly and hold back on fertilizer during July and August. Roses, if you have roses, watch for the aphids and fungus this time of year as well. If you have trees and shrubs, check evergreens for scale and bagworm. Those planted this year should have ample water though, because they really need it. If you planted shrubs in the spring, keep on watering them through the summer and into the fall. Vegetables, you're probably harvesting them now, or maybe you've harvested most of them. But if you are still harvesting them, keep checking them every day to make sure that you get them before the bugs do when they get too ripe.
Are there any upcoming events this summer?
Benton County Fair is coming up. It starts August 14th. Now the Master Gardeners for Benton County have a booth at the fair, and they are going to be promoting their classes, which start in January. Now for more information on the Bella Vista Garden Club, you can go to our website, bellavistagardenclub.com. We will start our new year with our September meeting on Wednesday, September 25th. Thank you, Cathy, for joining me today.
You're welcome.
I hope you have enjoyed the program and will tune in again next month. Till then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.